Hello everybody, welcome back to Spruverse, my scale model universe, people of Earth. Welcome to a brand new build. Tonight I am really excited about bringing you the Spindrift. This is not the kit that's available from Polar Lights, nay. This is a kit that I first found a review of on Randy Cooper's channel. And I know my good friend Ken Spriggs has this kit, and you should check his initial build stages on this. And I actually attempted to start this build a while ago. So if you're coming to this for the second time and think you are in Groundhog Day, you may well be. A bit of a background on it. The first time I attempted this, I was not really ready to tackle it. I didn't understand it. It's kind of like that wonderful refit. It's like build it once, shame on someone else. Build it twice, shame on you, and build it 3 times, you get it right, or whatever the saying is. But again, you know, it's about approaching these things from the notion that I'm learning too. And as your skills improve and your techniques improve and you learn how to work with different kinds of materials, you want to sort of revisit things. So I did. This is a kit that is available from a gentleman by the name of John Foster. It's still, I believe, available. You can reach John at aitecservices.com. I will make sure that his email address or his website is in the description below, and I believe he's also on Facebook, and you can actually you can send him a message that way, and I know he'll respond. He's really good about it. And he'll be happy to sell you one of these kits. Anyway, it's approximately, when it's finished, it's about 24 inches long. Pretty good. So it's quite a behemoth. That's the pro. The pseudo con for me is it's printed in PLA, and there are some issues. But don't worry, I'm not whining. I'm actually just kind of letting you know that this is not a 3D print from resin. This is this thing of beauty is actually PLA, and the quality of it is exceptional. The last time I made a couple of mistakes. I didn't like the surface. Which, you know, you can see all of these striations. But in person, once I actually get some of my Duplicolor filler primer on here, this will go away. But look at the elephant in the room. Do you see this? These ridges. I know. Now, I can hear you in the back going, why? Why? I don't know why, other than the fact that I think that for those of us, or for those of his, you know, whoever he marketed this for, ultimately thought that perhaps they wouldn't paint it, or they wouldn't know how to paint those lines on it or get those lines on them. So I think they decided to do it in ridges to kind of sell it. So that's one issue. The other issue, of course, is this indent here at the top, which I will show you. This indent. So when these two pieces go together, again, that's just that's supposed to be a line, and it's not, right? So it's yeah, it's supposed to just be a line. And of course, it isn't just a line, it's something else. So we have to remove it. So, but you can see here, look at the scale of this. I mean, if I put this, just this piece alone, is quite it's quite hefty. It's quite a sizable chunk. I mean, that's my hand. Look at the size of it. Really exciting. And I promise you, it turns out to be a really nice size. Now, it doesn't come with an interior, and there are some other faults too. Now, I know John is working on clear parts, but with all due respect, John, your idea of clear parts and my idea of clear parts, ne'er the twain shall meet. Now, again, I'm not knocking this. I think it's an awesome thing, and that's why we have the hobby, right? It's you do a certain amount of redesign work sometimes. Sometimes you have to improvise. But anyway, some of the parts now, it never used to be this way, but some of the parts in this sort of new and improved kit are actually resin. They're no longer PLA, which is a good thing. And he gives them to you on these trays, and so that is very much appreciated. And everything is numbered, so you know where everything goes. If you don't know where these teardrops go, no number in the world will help you. but anyway, I'm happy to see these. Absolutely thrilled to see these in the resin. So I think that makes a huge difference. So I do like that. Unfortunately, they do not sit flush, but that's okay because there's an element that should go. You can't see. There's an element that should go on here, I believe. So we'll work on that. Now, there is an interior available from Randy Cooper, and I have it. It's beautiful. I mean, it really is. The problem is when you build that thing of beauty and you think you're going to put it inside this model, the time and energy that you spend on it, in my opinion, you lose so much of it because you've got these windows. Now, they're relatively wide here, but once the model goes inside, the interior model, which has its own thickness to the windows, the casings, they go in even further and they drop even lower on a scoop. You lose all of it. And I promise you, there's an amazing amount of detail in that interior. So, what I have decided to do this time is, and I do have an interior, I'm going to build that interior as a separate item. It's going to be a separate piece. Kind of like the interior of the Galileo that they've brought us. And my good friend Lou Del Meso over at the Aztec Dummy brilliantly created a film set out of it rather than sticking it in a model again. It's such a clever use of an interior set. An interior kit. However, in sort of sharing this with Randy, because he's built this, and of course he's a pro, he's a professional model maker, and so he was able to do it, and he's done a beautiful job. But in talking to Randy, I did figure out that it's worth putting the cockpit in, because those front windows are wide, they're big. So it's worth having the cockpit in there because you'll see the whole interior of the cockpit, and we can certainly get some light in there. So Randy and I were talking, and anyway, I've got another interior cockpit only from him, and that's going to go great in here, and it's really going to add a tremendous amount of detail. The clear parts that come with the kit are fine if you're not going to want to see inside. Absolutely fine. But as you can see, there's no clarity here. It's not clear. So, but it will be a great template for me because I'll put some clear plastic here and I'll use this as my template, and I'll be fine, and those windows will look great. The other thing is that Randy also provides you with a dome, if you're going to light this correctly, there is an argument to be made that actually this dome, because now this kit comes with two versions of it. It comes with the red version, and it comes with a clear version. Now, I have to say that even though Randy provides you with, in the upgrade kit, he provides you with the clear dome. Now, if you're going to use the clear dome, he also provides a piece that essentially sits under here. And that excuse me, I just sneezed. Didn't want you to hear it. So that gives you wonderful choices. You can either use the clear piece with the grid and light that up, and that would look really cool, or you can just use the piece that comes with it. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. The other thing Randy gives you, amazingly, is an antenna, and he also gives you the forward array for the very front of the ship. So you get these two pieces. These two pieces do not come with the model you get from John. So just just so as you realize that you're going to need to mix and match. If you know how to make decals yourself, you're going to need some decals. And one of the things we're definitely going to do with this is we're going to fill in these ridges. Now, there's a couple of ways to do that. You can either do it with epoxy putty, or you can do it with Bondo. Either way, it's fine. But you need to get rid of these ridges and smooth this out, and we'll be doing that. And then once we've got the components together, we can start looking at how we're going to actually tackle this thing. So to give you an idea, take a look. Here is the breakdown of the pieces and how it all comes together. So we're going to obviously, and it comes in halves, right? So it's putting both halves together to create the final elements. So we'll need the front section here, the rear section here, we'll need the belly, and here's the door, the front scoop for the windows, and then the placards which will go on the outsides of the windows. There is also a tail fin that comes with this that has to be glued together. Now what I did, and I've done it already, is I got some extremely thick, I think this is what is this? Yeah, it's 3 mil card, and I cut my own fan on the bandsaw. What I did was I put the elements together, glued them together, made a template, and then I built this, and this sits nicely in, and it's one solid piece, because trying to fill gaps on this is also very tricky. So if you have a way to do that, I would definitely recommend that you replace it with your own piece. I think you'll be a lot happier that you did that. So I want to pull all the parts out so that we can look at everything and see what we've got here. Again, look at the size of this thing. I mean, this is a behemoth, and this measures 14 inches across. 14 inches. It's hefty. It almost feels studio scale. And again, I've got a little bit of cleanup to do, but I'm not going to drive myself crazy. I'm going to let the Duplicolor do it for me. I'll do several coats of that, sand it and sand it back, and we'll live with that. Because I think that by the time I've put my undercoats on this, and I'm going to use a rattle can to paint this, the surface actually ends up being pretty smooth. The mistake I made last time is I skimmed the entire thing and then tried to sand it back. You know, it actually works on some levels, but on other levels it was a disastrous failure. So I'm not going to do that again. But if you've ever worked with PLA, it is not that friendly to sand. It's fibers. So when you sand it back, you're breaking down the fibers. It's not like resin, which is solid all the way through. This is just multiple strings of webbing that are together. So when you can avoid sanding it, I would. But you know, it will take Bondo, and it does glue together very well with CA glue. But you got to just make sure you get all your, you get your fit correctly. So there's a top and bottom, as we can see here, to the clamshell, and let's see here. Well, no, this is. It doesn't go together like that. It actually goes on top like that, does it? No, this is the top, and this is the forward. This is the forward section. You know, no, we're not mixing rocket fuel in our tubs here, folks, and I'm doing this. But anyway, that's how that goes together. So. I'm looking to see, I've got my my top and my bottom here, and then I've got my side pieces in my back. So here's the rear, and then I've got these, which I already these are the I'm using. These are the resin replacement pieces that come with Randy's set. So we're going to be using those, and I think you'll agree that they're perfect. And of course, he's done a fantastic job with those. So the combination, as I said, of the two kits will really make this fly. Okay, so. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all these parts assembled and lined up, and then we'll take another look at it, and then we'll start talking about what we're lighting, because I'm not going to do a full-blown lighting thing on this. I've got some plans for it, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll also get the cockpit assembled and see what that looks like when it sits inside the ship. So lots to do. Thrilled you're with me, and I will organize myself, advance the ball, as my beautiful mother used to say, and we'll come back in a second and see my progress. Okay. So I have the underside of the ship all put together. Goes together quite easily, actually. You do have to, it's a little fiddly to get everything aligned, but you do the best you can. A little CA glue, and it bites pretty instantly. And then I give it a little zip kicker just to sort of lock it in. And it goes down really nicely. The tricky part now is the top of the shell, because you have to, what you have to do is you have to put it together in pieces. But the only way to really get this aligned correctly is to build your underneath, your undercarriage first, so that then when you start dropping your parts on top, you can line them up. Now, it's not perfect. There were a couple of location pins, but I've nipped those off because in typical fashion, they're not quite, obviously when this is printed, the PLA, it's obviously hot plastic, and it can shift a little bit, so it's not perfect. But you don't need those locator pins. What you need is just to trust the angles and put everything together, and you're going to get a little gappage, but now fear not, because with this kit, the gappage is very easily solved. And I'll show you here. So these lines, they're actually perfectly smooth. And where it looks like, right here, where it looks like you've got gappage, you don't. It's absolutely perfect. And it's completely solid. It's one unit. But the reason why it looks that way is because I'm using Frozen's light curing putty. Now we've talked about this before. Here it is, and we've talked about it. And I know from my subscribers that there are other versions of this out here. I just happen to like it. I use the Frozen product. I have Frozen 3D printers, so I like the product, and I like the quality of it, so I stick with it. But it's a paste. It goes into those cracks beautifully. You hit it with your UV light and it goes off absolutely rock solid. So by the time we've given that a little scuffing and we hit it with a couple of coats of the duper color, we should be golden. As I've said before, you do have to be really careful when you're scuffing this, when you're sanding it, because it's fibrous and it will start to break down on you. So if you've got really, really bad areas, I use a hobby knife to trim away a lot of the fibers. I hit it with a little bit of a sanding stick, but if you need anything more than that, don't worry about it. Do what I do here, which is, just take a very sharp hobby knife, get that all off, and then you'll once you've done that, you can just clean up those edges. They clean up. They clean up quite nicely, but that's about all you can do and should do. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in trouble. But I think you'll see. Now, this is, at the moment, this is measuring about 20 inches. But by the time it has its antenna on, it hits 24. But it's 20 inches in total. But look at the size of it. Look at, I mean, this is a really substantial size model. So I'm really happy with the scale of this. It's going to be beautiful. So that's what I'm gonna that's what I'm working on now. So I'm gonna continue to get the back shell lined up, and then we will work our way forward until we have a complete top and a complete bottom, and then we can start looking at how we're going to put the interior in this, because it is going to require a little bit of surgery, and we'll talk about that. But basically, where I'm pointing here, these ridges that are designed to strengthen it, they sit a little proud for Randy's interior cockpit. So we will be doing a little trimmage, not a tremendous amount, but a little bit. And yeah, it's curious to me that there is locator pins on the inside of this, which suggests to me that at some point there was a floor that was supposed to drop on this, and maybe they're still working on it, and then maybe they're working on an interior. I don't know. I haven't spoken or communicated with John in a long time, so I don't know. But I do know he continues to perfect this. So there may be some updates to his kit that I'm not aware of. But this is what I have, and this is what I'm going with. Okay, so progress. I'm going to continue to get all these pieces together, and then we'll discuss the interior cockpit and lighting. So yeah, it's coming together. So let's carry on. I had a relatively easy time actually doing the basic construction, so that's a good thing. But I was also going through some of the elements that I had, because as some of you know, some of you don't, the exterior, the actual physical PLA print of this comes from one source, and then of course the interior is from Randy Cooper. And he also did a exterior upgrade kit as well, which I had from a previous attempt at this. Curiously, I would have to say that from that print to this print has definitely upgraded. The quality of this is quite extraordinary, and when you run your finger over it, you don't feel that groove. Now, obviously, you're still going to get that sort of striation. There's not much you can do about it, but I would say that it's pretty clean. Now you can see the whole thing together here, and it's beautiful. It's an excellent, absolutely excellent size for a display model, and I think far superior to that small kit that nobody ever expanded on. Which it happens. There may well be a resin version of this out there. I don't know of it. I only know of this. But I'm thrilled to have this, because I'm hoping to get this to turn into this. Well, a version of this anyway. This is the actual filming miniature, and it is extraordinary. It is great to know. Now, I knew for a while that this had been floating around. At some point, I had heard it was on display in Seattle at their science museum. I also know that Greg Jean had it for a while, or had a version of it, or I don't know. I'm not very good at the accuracy of my information, so don't hold me to it. But if we can get close to this, we should be in pretty good shape. Now, if you look on this, you'll see that the actual painted stripe that goes across the window, the door, over the nose, and around the other side, it did not continue to the rear. But you can see it at the very top of the cone, and you can see it on the fin. You can also see the antenna, which on this particular version I can see is gold. So whether that was repainted, repaired, my guess is it may have been added on and was lost. It's hard to believe that it probably wasn't lost. And then of course the antenna that protrudes out of the nose below the cockpit window also looks as though it has had some repair work done to it over the years. Not sure. But there it is. So I think we can get pretty darn close, but we've got a lot of work to do. This may look like I've done a lot, but don't be fooled. So I've got a couple of decisions to make. One is about the actual top of this, because I have, from the Randy Cooper upgrade kit, the teardropped frame that is supposed to sit here in the hull. And then on top of it, Randy gives you a clear bubble top. There it is. So the actual light would have been red, but the actual dome itself, if you believe this picture, this photo, was clear. So what that tells me is that when it lit up with the red light, that's what caused the actual dome to glow. That's what I think. Now, having said that, if you wanted to, you could use this red dome that comes with the kit. Now it's printed out of PLA, and I need to spray it with some clear to clean it up. But it's not terrible. And I think you'll see that when you lay it down over here, you get a pretty cool effect. Now I can barely see the grid inside, so ultimately it would in some ways negate using that. So I don't know. I don't know. My instinct is to actually cut this open and go with Randy's version of it and light it. That's my instinct. Since I don't have anything in here this time, I'm not fighting with it. The last time I put Randy's interior inside the first attempt at this, I failed miserably for a whole bunch of reasons, and they are all operator error. It had nothing to do with Randy's kit, and it had nothing to do with the actual model. It was all me. It was poor planning, not fundamentally understanding basically how this model works. And of course, you know, Randy's a professional model maker, so he understood what needed to go in order to get this inside. But I am excited about putting the cockpit in the window, because if I hold this up to camera for you, you can see that is a huge window. So there's so much to see inside that cockpit. So I'm super excited about that. That'll work out really well. So what I'm going to do is obviously I haven't glued in the front nose cockpit windows yet, so I'll do that. And then I'm going to get some templates, cut myself some clear, and when I'm ready to install that, I'll go ahead and do it. And obviously mask it off so I keep it clean. Curiously, I had to actually do a little work on that window. If you notice, well, you don't notice. Let me see if I can turn this to camera and show you this on the close-up camera. Yeah, if you notice, I have elongated these windows. I've made them larger because on the television version, they weren't this shape. This is the shape that came with it. Now, besides giving you less window space to see your cockpit, and besides that, you couldn't see in, which would be fine if you don't intend to actually put his cockpit inside. This would actually probably be a smart way to go. It's just the wrong shape. So it's fine on the bottom because you wouldn't see that angle. That angle makes sense. It's the top where it was actually a lot wider. So there you go with that. I'm going to set this aside for a second. Oh, before I go, I've also got to figure out what I'm doing with my windows, because if you look inside the windows on the filming miniature, you can see there's a significant amount of depth. Now I can actually create that. I've got the ability to do it, and have to, because I need those windows to be a lot deeper. But they'll be black inside, so you won't necessarily be able to see inside, I don't think, because my hope is to actually build the interior as a separate model. That's my hope. Okay, so lots of stuff I'm thinking about. I am doing a small upgrade. This is the antennae that came with Randy's upgrade kit. Here it is. And I don't know. I actually broke one of these off, but it just doesn't feel clean to me, you know. No matter, and it's one of these things. No matter how much I sand this, I'm never going to get this perfect. So the way for me to get this perfect, actually, let me get closer. I think I can get closer. Yeah. That's better. Is to scratch build myself one. So I found some balls. Here's my ball. No snickering at the back, please. This is a very serious show. So there's my ball, and I found some little studs. Now you could use pins as well, but I found some studs, and I will drill these in, and I will use this rod, which works beautifully, as the bottom. and we'll scratch build ourselves. We'll scratch build ourselves a new antenna, and I think that'll be nice and clean. So there's a little bit of scratch building I've got to do, and so that takes care of that. So what I'd like to do, just to sort of close out, I think this segment, because I think that's more than enough for this show, is come back the last segment. I will have puttied those seams. We'll get a coat of primer on it to see what we've got to clean up, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about lighting before we close out part 1 of this build, the Spindrift from Land of the Giants. Stick around. I think this segment will wrap up part 1 of this build, but lots to sort of just review with you and talk about, because sometimes when I'm presenting this, I don't always have the plan completely thought out in my head. It's just not how my brain works. Perhaps I should, but unfortunately, that's what you got. So, coat of primer on everything except the bottom. I haven't done that yet. The first coat of primer I put on here just to see how bad everything was, and there's nothing better to see how bad everything is than putting a coat of primer on it. And I talked an awful lot in the beginning about how the striations of the PLA print had improved. Well, they hadn't improved that much from a painting perspective, because it really accentuates the grooves. So I decided to fix that. Now, on the market, there are several versions of what is essentially a resin that you can mix. It's a 2-part resin, and you paint it on your PLA part to remove all the striations. It gives it a completely flush surface, and it does. And this back piece, I utilized that system. Now there's plenty of them on Amazon. I'm not going to list them because there's just a myriad of them, and you can pick and choose which ones you want, but they're for coating PLA prints. You'll find them on Amazon. They're not cheap, and they're chemicals. So once again, it's about making sure that you are in a well-ventilated area, a respirator, gloves, all the protections, and and off you go. You can coat these things, and it goes on quite well. Now, I will be definitely doing a little more puttying on the front of this, because this is the business section of this ship. So what I think you'll see here is what I think you'll see here is that I have done a slightly different system here. Now what I did here is I bondoed the whole thing. I bondoed it, I've sanded it 2 or 3 times, and this is what you get. And it really is the saving grace of this kit. It's the best way to do it, because ultimately, you're looking at this thing, and there's an awful lot that was done to this. As you recall, there were deep grooves that were printed into this that were supposed to they were supposed to represent that band, which is just, it's painted on, so why it had grooves like that, I don't know. It just hurt my head. But anyway, they were there, and you got to get rid of them. You're not just getting rid of them on the surface of the ship. You're actually getting rid of them on the cone too, and I've successfully done that. I've got a little bit more of spot puttying to do, because when you look up close, if you want to be really sort of anal retentive about it, you'll see things like here, these little pop marks. So they just need to be cleaned up, and that's just going to take one more coat of the glazing putty to do that, and we should be good to go. I have decided that I'm going to actually install the the clear dome. I'm going to paint this with my Tamiya red. I'm going to get that done, and then that will drop in the top. It drops in here quite nicely now. I've cleaned everything up. It goes in there quite nicely. However, when you tip it over, what you discover is that Randy's left you an awful, well, not an awful lot, but I would say a good, well, it looks like 20 mil of surface that needs to be removed, so that when you come back along with your grill, that can just drop in like that, and that'll all come together quite nicely. So I'm pretty excited about that, but that's all got to be done, and I've got to do a little more trimming. I've got to do a little more trimming to that, and you do have to be careful because I only have the one, and I don't want to ruin it. So I'm going to be very, very careful about how I take care of that, and then obviously that has to be cleaned up. Now for the actual front windows, I'll be using just some clear. Some clear sheet styrene. I've got some pretty good stuff that I can polish up, and it'll serve the purpose quite beautifully. So that's good. The antenna, I repaired the antenna. Let me put this over here just to get it out of the way. But I built a scratch. I scratch built a new antenna. Here it is, and that's all good to go. So I'm happy with that. And ultimately that will look really cool. The antenna for the front of the ship is good to go. Here that is. I haven't painted it yet, but it's all been glued together. And here that is, and of course with the antenna, and that correctly mimics the filming miniature, as you can see here. So you can see that is there. So that's good. I have that ready to go. And now I just want to talk a little bit about the interior, because I kept promising to show you or talk about the interior, and I didn't get to it. So this is the Randy Cooper interior kit that you can get from him on his website. I've glued the face of this to the rear, and all that has to happen now is I'm gonna give this a coat of paint, primer, before I get this finished. Then I'm gonna do a texture coating on the floor. And then that will sit in the base of the ship like so. Now I did have to chew out a little bit of this frame. You can see this frame that comes with the ship, and you do have to chew that out a little bit, and it does sit nicely. It does sit nicely. Now it is a little proud, but that's okay, because when you look through those windows, you want to be able to see a little bit more of the chair and the cockpit surround. So if it's a little proud, that's fine. I just have to make sure that before I actually glue this down, that I've got it sitting exactly where I want it, which is about there on the piece. And then you can see that the window portion will drop down into this groove. There's a groove here, and this drops down into it like so. Now we're going to just sort of gauge where that sits, because it has to obviously connect with the top piece. So I will do some final measurements before I commit to gluing that in. But this is basically how that looks, and then everything goes in. It's got these walls. Now these walls key. There's two sides to them, and they key into the model. Here's one side, like that. And then here's the other side, and that keys like this. And that just drops in like that. Then there is some decals and some screens, and the way it's going to be lit is this girder here, which sits it sits above the rear piece like this. This girder has these 3 elements in here which you drill out, and we're going to put 3 mil bulbs in here. Perhaps 2 reds at the side and a white in the middle, which will give you an interesting kind of wash. And that will light up everything. There is also, interestingly enough, there is also these side panels here. Now, they're side panels. I'll tip this just gently here to camera so you can see. Here, these side panels. Now, they get a glass panel in them, which will sort of have an opaque color to it. And I'm going to put a light behind both of those. There's both sides. I'm going to put a light behind both of those. So you've got light from the top, light from the sides, and then you also have the control surface here. And I'm tempting fate here because it's all going to collapse on me, which is usually what happens. But that drops into place like this. Yeah, it's not going to cooperate. I want it to, but it kind of will. Anyway, something kind of like that. Let me get my hand out of there. Sort of like that. And so now obviously it tips down. It doesn't tip as high as that. But I think you'll see that it all sort of comes together. And he's designed this in such a way that it all keys in. And the one thing you'll realize is that I gotta build this cockpit, detail it out, and have it finished. And then I'll put all the wires to it, because then I can come around the front to the windows and see, oh, I'm a little too proud, I've got to drop down, and then all that can be epoxied in and it won't go anywhere. But that's kind of what we have to do. Now, in doing that, I also am not putting the hallway in to this model, because I want the hallway for my interior model of the whole thing, because it's really a beautiful thing. And so I'm going to have this door closed. So I'm going to get a piece of card, and I'm going to drop it in on both sides, so that I can have this door closed. And there's a little panel here. There is a decal for it, but I may actually put a couple of chip SMDs in there that blink, one red, one green, or something like that, or maybe just one red, I don't know, just to give that a little bit of action. And that will be the extent of it. Now, that takes care of the interior that you'll be able to see. Let me just get this over here for a second so it's out of the way. That takes care of the interior you're going to be able to see. That leaves us with some not issues, but it leaves us with things we have to do. Now, the teardrops classically pulse. These teardrops classically pulse. Now, in the show, sometimes in the practical set, they were off, and sometimes they were on. So that is a curious thing, and of course they're red, and the rear engines here are red too, but they obviously wouldn't be on if you were in the crashed position. They would be off. So I'm going to put some red light there, just because I want light to come from everywhere, and in this set maybe it'll add a little bit of curiosity to it. But they're not going to pulse, they're not going to flicker, and they're not going to pulse because it's not in the flying position, it's in the crash position. My presentation is going to be in the crash position. And then what I've done is from Evans Design, I have got coming some 5mm SMD, not LED, SMD lights, red lights that will pulse. They're called breathing SMDs, and I've got 10 of them. I don't think I need 10. I might just need 3, and I'll put some diffusion on here, and then I'm going to sit these back here in a box. I'm going to build a box for it, and so these will breathe. And I'm just going to have the dome itself just lit. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be using some tape, some cob tape, or I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to light that yet. I haven't decided. But I do know that I'm going to have my dome, I'm going to paint it red, because on the filming miniature, that you that I've seen, it was red. Now I have suspicions that this has had some work done to it. I'm suspecting that dome is not original, and I'm also seeing where there was a little bit of work done to where the antenna is, and that is painted chrome, and I don't think it was on the original. I think it was actually orange. And then of course the what are, I suppose, crash windows, or perhaps louvers, that are on the right and left sides of the windows. They are silver and black. They're not just silver. So I think this has had a little bit of stuff done to it, but that's okay. That's fine. I'm not going for canon. I'm just trying to pick, the best of all my worlds. And so so that's it. Oh, the only other thing is there are these little the little yolks here. No yoke. Okay, come on. So there are these little yolks, and these are the control surfaces, obviously, that sit in the co-pilot and captain's chairs. Will go on. Now, in the show, these are, sometimes they're silver and sometimes they're black, so I don't know. But I like them in the silver, and this is one that's finished with the little decal that Randy gives you. And what I did was I added a strip to the top like that because I just think it looks good. Now, I had these lit up. This is from a previous, just a test. I had these lit up. I drilled through the back and I lit these up. I'm not going to be doing that in this version, but I will be doing that in the open cockpit version for the interior build, which we'll do sometime next year. I don't know when. But I do like the look of this. I think I like the finish of this from the back. It just adds some texture and some color to it. And of course, the inside of the cockpit is a pistachio green. The floor is a sort of an off-gray black kind of treatment, which we'll do. And then there's some silver trim around some of the frames, which we'll put in. And of course, the girders were silver. So lots to do, lots been done. But you can see it's coming along. So in the part 2 update, all my lights that I've ordered should arrive from Evans, and we'll go through everything and look at that and make a final decision on what we're doing and what we're not doing. I will have had all of this pre-sanded and puttied again just to make sure it's perfect, and then we'll be definitely ready to also look at the final detail out of the cockpit, the installation of the lights, final looks, and then maybe in a part 3 we'll talk about the diorama. I'm not sure. It depends on how much time we're talking about. This video, I'm about a good full week in. And I'm in the shop about 8 hours a day, so that gives you an idea of how long it took to get to this point. And boy, is it messy, guys. So this is one of those kits. Alas, you've got to be able to take outside to sand it and do all that stuff, because otherwise you're going to leave yourself with a hell of a mess. But wow, what fun, right? Okay, so that is part one of Build the Spindrift from Land of the Giants, this large scale version. I'm not going to say studio scale, because I suspect the studio model was perhaps a little bigger, a little beefier, but I'm not sure. But it's a large scale version. Thrilled to have it. Thrilled to have you along on the on the ride. If you've come through and you've never seen the show before, welcome. It's great to have you. Please click that like and subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me, and it'll make you feel really good about yourself. If you want to just drop me a line, you can. I'm spruverse@gmail.com. Follow my In the Weeds posts on Instagram, where I'm sort of showing you the details of the of some of the basic build elements, which don't get into the actual show, because otherwise they'd just be way too long. And as always, I wish all of you, please be safe, be well, build something, and I'll see you on the next show. Take care, everybody.